A few weeks ago, I released an episode talking about the average 401k balances by age, as well as the medians, and the results were surprising. The results were probably way smaller than you thought. In fact, those in the range of 55 to 64 have an average 401k balance of $256,200 and a median of $90,000. Those over age 65 have an average balance of $280,000 and a median of $103,000. That's way smaller than you probably think. And most of you who are watching this on YouTube or listening on the podcast app, you have probably saved and invested really well. That's why you're listening to this. You are probably naturally a saver at heart or someone who wants to make sure they're in a good spot to retire. And as you can imagine, if you have $280,000, you're probably not spending a whole lot or maybe enjoying your retirement to the fullest. Now, what I don't want you to ever do is spend for the sake of spending, but for transparency, most of our clients, they want to spend $100,000, $150,000, $200,000 a year, especially because they have their energy in their health. So they're in their 50s, they've saved well, they want to make sure they can travel and pay for healthcare or help out a child with a down payment when it's more meaningful to them. And they don't want to run out of money in 30 or 40 potential years. So with that being said, I'm going to go over in this episode 6 really interesting statistics about wealthy retirees. Now, many of you are on your track to being a wealthy retiree. How do we actually define wealthy? How much is enough? Well, there's the famous Rockefeller quote of how much is enough? Just a little bit more. Yep, once I have $1 million, I'm going to retire. 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, I'm finally done. And I can't tell you how many people do this that we talk to. It's called goalpost planning. They just keep moving back the goalposts. One more project at work, and I'll ask you, even like I'm going to do right now, if you're being honest with yourself, and if you can do that, please ask yourself. If you really do need to ask your spouse, I encourage you to pause this podcast or video that you're watching and go ask them how many times you've pushed back your retirement. Now, I don't know if my mic just picked up on it, but I live right by UCLA and there's a hospital right here. And so I just heard a very loud ambulance, not a large ambulance. I couldn't hear the size of the ambulance, as you can imagine. But right when I asked that question, it went off. And so you can see they want you to ask your spouse about this as well. Now, in all seriousness, I'm going to go through these 6 examples, but ask them how long, or ask yourself, have you told yourself, hey, this is the year I'm going to retire, and then you pushed it back. And there's nothing wrong with that, by the way. It's not a bad thing. Sometimes you'll find, I don't know what I'm going to do in retirement. I know financially I'm in a position to make it happen, but I don't really know if I want to. Other people are truly just on the financial side worried they don't have enough, but they keep changing their definition of what enough is, which is not going to be effective for your retirement. Meaning, if you want to make sure you never run out of money, the solution is really easy. People overcomplicate it. Just work forever. You'll be fine. You probably don't want to do that because you're going to go eventually, I don't want to do that. So the better solution is to really have a high quality financial plan, and you can use a tool like the one I talk about in often many of my videos where you can go build your own analysis, and that's available in the description of this episode. Now, my name is Taublieb. I'm a certified financial planner, host of the Early Retirement Podcast, and Chief Growth Officer here at Root Financial. Now, here's 6 surprising statistics. Number 1, wealthy retirees often spend less than they could. Even retirees with $1 million or more in investable assets spend cautiously due to fear of outliving money. I can attest to this. We have so many clients who go, yes, I know I have over $1 million, but it just feels weird. It feels weird. I've never taken from my portfolio. I've only ever added to it. So here I am, and I hear what you're saying, which is I'm in a good spot, but it's still difficult. There was a study by United Income in 2018, which found retirees spend 24% less than they could safely spend. Wealthy retirees often spend less in retirement than in their working years despite financial security. The reason that's so powerful to me is, think about it like this. Here I will ask a client, how much would you love to spend? They'll tell me $150,000 a year. Then I'll ask them, what do you currently make per year, salary? And they'll say $200,000. I'll say, okay, what was your first job? And they'll say, well, it was $30,000 a year. I said, okay, well, I'm asking you to spend $150,000, literally 5 times more than what you originally started at when you entered the workforce. How does that feel? And I'll have a lot of people who go, wow, that feels weird. Like, you're literally telling me that I can do this, but I remember, like, I still can't forget the feeling of spending, I was making 30,000 a year and I was living off of, top ramen and eggs, and it was like very difficult. Now you're saying I can just do this willy-nilly? Like, that's not who I am. So it's difficult. So the first step is to recognize that. Number two, average spending in retirement is way lower than expected. Across retirees, I talked about this in the past, it was about $57,000, depending on the article you talk about. The BLS Consumer Expenditure Survey says it's about $52,000, but that higher income retirees, so the top 20%, not percent, spend $100,000 to $150,000 on average, but often below pre-retirement spending. Many wealthy retirees spend 70 to 80% of their pre-retirement income rather than the rule of thumb, which is 85% in our industry. Healthcare is a big one. Healthcare spending before 65 can be shockingly high without employer coverage, which I talk about a lot. Retirees under 65 will pay 3 times more for healthcare than those above 65. That's just because of Medicare. So average annual healthcare spending before 65, we're looking at $10,000 to $15,000 a year out of pocket. That's for premiums and deductibles. Couples with honestly high ACA premiums, you could be at $20,000, $30,000 a year. So let's just say $25,000 a year. That's a significant expense. So you certainly need to make sure you plan for it, but you can also bring that down significantly if you plan well, which I have tons of different episodes on. If you just search Ari Taublieb Healthcare, I will come up, whether that's podcast, YouTube, wherever. Fidelity is estimating a 65-year-old couple retiring in 2024 to need $315,000 for healthcare, but those retiring early often see annual costs at $20,000 plus. That's according to Fidelity's 2024 healthcare estimate and the KFF ACA premium analysis. Statistic number 4, wealthy retirees keep large cash reserve, sometimes too large. Now, what's the risk to having a large cash reserve? The risk is that money does not outpace inflation, and then otherwise, you therefore can't spend as much money later. But does it provide peace of mind that's worth it? I find it often does. And so I'll see a lot of advisors that talk about make sure to have a significant amount of equities because you want to make sure you outpace inflation, which I personally agree with. At the same time, there is something to be said about this not so quantifiable analysis. Hey, I'm just sleeping better at night. Now, when I have $200,000-$300,000 on the sidelines, yeah, I know it's not growing like my Roth, but that's fine. And I don't need it to be growing. It's there for safety. I'm sleeping better at night. Now, what you don't want to do is overdo it. And there's a lot of high net worth retirees, according to Vanguard, who say they keep 10 to 20% of their portfolio in cash for flexibility and peace of mind, even if not optimal returns, and that they prefer real estate and a conservative allocation in retirement, which makes a lot of sense. Number 5, retiree spending declines with age. This is fascinating to me. Most of you will, if I ask you, what's your equity to fixed income allocation? You might say 70-30, 70% equities, 30% fixed income. And I would ask you, if you get older, what do you think is going to happen? Will your equities increase or decrease? And most people will say it will decrease because I'm getting older. I need to be safer, in quotation marks, more conservative. I don't have as long for my portfolio to recover, which would be true. But think about it like this. When you're in your 70s, are you going to be spending more or less than in your 50s? Probably less. Your energy and health is not the same. Let me ask you this. Do you think that you're going to have more income when you're in your 70s versus your 50s? You'll probably say more because Social Security is helping out and your portfolio has grown because of compound interest. Despite you still withdrawing from it, it's still growing. So here we are in our 70s and we actually have more income coming from our portfolio because once again, portfolio has grown. So 5% of $1 million, 50,000 versus 5% of 2 million, 100,000 plus Social Security is coming in. So now you don't need as much from your portfolio because if you want to spend, let's say 100,000 in retirement and you're taking 80 from your portfolio and 20 from Social Security, the reality is that is a very different amount from when you're in your 50s with $1 million relying entirely on your portfolio. So you actually could, if you wanted to, increase your equity exposure, which is a contrarian belief because now here we are in retirement, well into retirement in our 70s, and you see you're in a fine spot if you were to have 70% equities, or let's be a little aggressive here just for fun here. Let's pretend that you have $1 million and you're 70, just to keep it real simple here, and you decide you want to spend $50,000 a month. Well, you want 5 years of short-term assets. So 5 years times 50,000 a year, not 50,000 a month. That's 250,000, and you have $1 million. That tells me your fixed income portion should be 25% or 250,000, aka 5 years of living expenses, and that you can have 75% in equities. But now fast forward and you have $2 million. Well, if you have $2 million and Social Security is helping out and your portfolio has grown, you could theoretically have a higher equity exposure, meaning your assets could grow even more, and you could spend more, meaning you're even in a more comfortable position. You don't need to do that because you have to ask yourself, what's going to let me sleep best at night? But it's something to consider. And the sixth statistic here, wealthy retirees still worry about outliving their money. I can attest to this. We have clients at Root that have $5, $10, $15, $20 million. Sometimes they're more stressed than our other clients because they're worried, I don't want to screw this up. It's a lot of money and I don't want to mess things up. Where could I go wrong here? A 2023 EBRI Retirement Confidence Survey found 1 in 3 high net worth retirees fear running out of money due to the unknown of healthcare costs and market volatility. Longevity uncertainty, potential long-term care costs, and market downturns drive underspending. So in our software, we'll run what-if scenarios and go, what if you're like super unlucky and markets go down, 40%? And what if it turns out healthcare costs are just going through the roof and you decide that you want to spend way more than you first thought when you retired, and inflation rises and your returns don't do what you expect? Like, what if you're the most unlucky person ever? And we'll show them, here's what it would look like. And sometimes I find clients totally shift in this moment and they go, wait, so if I'm the most unlucky person ever, I'm still not going to run the risk of running out of money? What am I worrying about? And that will add a lot of confidence to their plan. So here are 6 interesting statistics from wealthy retirees compared to the average or the median, as I shared. If this was helpful and you're watching on YouTube, please like this video. Please comment below if you found it helpful. If you want to play around with your own tool, your own software, you can do so in the description of this episode. And if you want to work with Root so that we can be true partners and help you in this next stage of life, of truly optimizing what you've worked so hard for, this is what we love to do. That's it for this episode. I'll see you guys next time.